Night beckons. Agreed. What, mortal?
Hello.
I must hunt soon. What, mortal? Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Greetings. What, mortal? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Death rages. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. I hunger. Die. Thought of that? I hunger. Agreed. You thought of that? Death rages. Your soul is blind. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Death rages. That was my plan. That was my plan. I hunger. That was my plan. You thought of that? Death rages. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? I hunger. Agreed. Die. Very well. Agreed. I hunger. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Rages. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Die. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? well. That was my plan. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that. That was my plan. You thought of that. Very well. Agreed. I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that. Very well. Thought of that. Agreed. Thought of that. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. Agreed.
First blood.
The night beckons. Plan. That was my plan.
What is your wish?
What? Mortal. Agreed. Very well. Agreed. Courageous. You thought of that. Very well. You thought of that. That was my plan. You thought of that. I must hunt soon. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. What is it now? That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. Die. I must hunt soon. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. What? You thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Death rages. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. I hunger. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Death rages. Die. That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
Agreed. Death rages. Die. That was my plan. Very well.
Our allies' town needs help.
That was my plan. Very well. I must hunt soon. What more? Greetings. Agreed.
Our allies' town needs help.
What? More work? I must hunt
Greetings,
soon.
my lord.
You thought of that? Greetings. What is it now? What, mortal? It's my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
It's my plan. I must hunt soon. Greetings. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of
Allies' town
that?
needs help.
That was my plan. I must hunt soon. I hunger. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Greetings. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that. Must hunt soon. Very well.
Our allies' town needs help.
That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that. That was my plan. You thought of that. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. Greetings. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. That was my plan. I hunger. Agreed. Die. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Death rages. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed.
Hello.
What, mortal? I must hunt soon. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? You thought of that? Die. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Very well. Greetings. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Killing spree. You thought of that? What is it now? Agreed. That was my plan. I hunger. Must hunt soon. What is it now? You thought of that?
Wait till you see me in action.
What is it?
No, not like that.
I must hunt soon. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Death rages. That was my plan. You
Our
thought of
allies'
that?
town needs help.
Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. What, mortal? I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. What is it now? Agreed. Die. Greetings. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? What? Agreed. Very well. Thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? I must hunt soon. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. Die. That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Greetings. Agreed.
Our allies'
Very
town needs
well.
help.
You thought of that? What, mortal? Greetings. Very
Greetings, my lord.
More work?
I'll have it up in no
Our
time.
allies' town needs help.
What is it now? Greetings. Very well. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. That was my plan. Agreed. I hunger. Agreed. That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Death rages. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Your soul is mine. That was my plan. That was my plan. Agreed.
Hello. Our allies'
Aye.
town
Greetings,
needs
my
help.
lord.
You're interrupting my
What?
calculations.
What ails you?
Greetings. What, mortal? That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs
That
help.
was my plan. Very well. I hunger.
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
Agreed.
Our allies' town needs help.
Dominating that. That was my plan. Agreed. What? The soul is mine.
Our allies' town needs help.
Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. Greetings. Very well. Agreed.
Our allies' town needs help.
What is it now? You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Die. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? What, mortal? Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was
Our
my
allies'
plan.
town needs help.
You thought of that? Well,
Welcome to our village.
greetings. That was my plan. Greetings. What is it now? Agreed.
Our allies' town needs help.
That was my plan. Die. Death rages. Very well. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan.
Our allies'
Agreed.
town needs help.
That was my plan. Agreed.
More gold is required.
Greetings. What, mortal? Very well. That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
What, mortal? You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. That was my plan. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. I hunger. Your soul is mine. That was my plan. You thought of that? Mega kill. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. Death rages. That was my plan. Very well. Very well. You thought of that? Agreed. I hunger. What is it now? Very well. Agreed. Your soul is mine. I hunger. The human free. Very well. That was my plan. That was my plan. I must hunt soon. Agreed. That was my plan. You thought of that?
Our allies' town needs
Very
help.
well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. What? Very well. Your soul is mine. You thought of that. Very well. Agreed. Die. I must hunt soon. You thought of that. Very well. Agreed. You thought of that? What is it now? Agreed. Very well. What, mortal? You thought of that?
Where shall my blood be
Our
spilled?
is it now?
allies' town needs help.
That was my plan. You thought of that? That was
Our
my
allies'
plan.
town needs help.
Very well. What, mortal? I hunger. Unstoppable. That was my plan. Agreed. What is it now? That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed.
Our allies' town needs help.
What? What is it now? That was my... Die. Dominating. Very well. I must hunt soon. You thought of that?
Our allies' town
Was
needs
my
help.
plan. Agreed. You thought of that? What, mortal?
Give me something to do!
I must hunt soon.
Our allies' town needs help.
I hunger. Die. Rages. Your soul is mine. That was my plan. You thought of that? What is it now? I must hunt soon. That was my plan. You thought of that? That was my plan. I hunger. What, mortal?
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
Must hunt soon. That was my plan. Your soul is mine. Mega kill. I hunger.
I am ready.
Our allies' town needs help. Our allies' town needs help.
The night beckons. What? That was my plan. Very well. Your soul is mine. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. You thought of that. Agreed. That was my plan.
How may I serve?
Our warriors have engaged the enemy.
What is it now? You thought of that? What? That was my plan.
Our allies' town needs help.
Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. You thought of that?
Our allies' town needs help.
That was my plan. You thought of that? What? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. You thought of that?
Our allies' town needs
That
help.
was my plan. You thought of that? I must hunt soon. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of
Our
that?
allies' town needs help.
Very well. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that?
Our allies' town needs help.
Death rages. I hunger. Agreed. You thought of that?
Our allies' town needs help.
Agreed. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Killing spree. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? What, mortal? Agreed. Very well. Agreed.
Our allies' town needs help.
That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. What more? I must hunt soon. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Death rages. Greetings. Agreed. Very well. That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. Die. Rages. That was my plan. Agreed. That was my plan. Thy bidding, master. What mortal? Agreed. You thought of that? That was my plan. Greetings. Very well. You thought of that? Very well. Very well. That was my plan. Your soul is mine. I hunger. Killing spree on That was my plan. Double kill. That was my plan. Agreed. Thought of that? Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Dominating. You thought of that? That was my plan. Agreed. Very well. Death rages. Agreed. I hunger. You thought of that? Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. I must hunt soon. Greetings. You thought of that? Agreed. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. You thought of that? Very well. Agreed. What mortal? Very well. Mega kill. Very well. You thought of that? That was my plan. Your soul is mine. I hunger. Die. Very well. Agreed. Rages. I hunger. That was my plan. Agreed. You thought of that? Agreed.
Show me the path.
I must hunt soon. That was my plan. Very well. You thought of that?
Which way?
What, mortal?
My life for this.
What is it now? Agreed. You thought of that?
I bow to your
What, mortal? Greetings. Very well. That was my plan. Very well. Agreed. What, mortal? You thought of that? Agreed. That was my plan. I hunger. You thought of that? Agreed. What is it now? You thought of that? That was my plan. That was my plan.
Monster kill!